Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to another video. We're going to be reading chapter 11 in A Guide for Lightworkers. The writer and channeler is Saratoga Ocean. She is channeling the wonderful, beautiful Archangel Michael. So before we begin, I will remind you to take a moment to center yourself, to create, or to, I guess you could say, set the intention of taking this information in with your heart rather than with your mind, as this communication was intended. And as another reminder, it does state early on in the introduction that many phrases and words are basically reused throughout the book, and that is done on purpose. So if you find yourself saying they've already said that 5 times, they've already said that 50 times, there is a reason and an explanation for that. And I did go over all of that in video 1, where I read the introduction and chapter 1. And the introduction, I think, is kind of important because it explains the reason for this book and the way that it is written differently, and really how to set your intention to take the information in. So if you didn't catch that video and you're interested in doing that, please feel free to do so. But for now, we are going to move on to chapter 11. This is all channeled by the author. This is all from the words of Archangel Michael, for lack of a better term. And we are going to be reading about prayer. Let us now discuss why your explanation of what is going on in your world is so important. It is because your explanation produces a mental paradigm from which you will pray for help. The fact that you are asking for help at all is in and of itself an indication that something is amiss here. Wouldn't you agree? Mostly when people pray, they are asking for help and relief from something negative. That something negative can take the form of pain, suffering, grief, and an overall sense of difficulty with life itself. Sometimes the prayer exists as a request for more love in the world. But how can it be that more love is required when divine love is already infinite? And here again is where the explanations tend to go off the rails. Well, people say, God is putting us through this because he, she, it loves us and wants us to learn. Note that there is even an indecision about what gender this God really is. Some will say that God provided people with these bad experiences so that they can learn to better appreciate the good and not take it so for granted. Do you really need to lose your legs in order to appreciate them? Or how about losing a beloved family member? Is this really necessary in order to have the chance to eulogize them and finally let the world know how much you truly appreciate their presence? Is the nature of God such as to say, I know how to help these people have a better experience. I'll take away that which they really love and need in order for them to really appreciate it. Really? So the absence of that which you love will actually breed more love for that thing or person? Now, some people will say that there is value in the earthly struggles of humanity. They tell you that it will build strength and character. But shouldn't you already have that if you truly are created in the image and likeness of God? The bottom line is that all these explanations are totally fraught with confusion and discrepancies. If we were to put all of these explanations in a giant basket, they would have one thing in common. They are all premised upon a belief that God/infinite love is somehow responsible for creating a violent world such as Earth, along with an equally violent universe. They all presuppose that the infinite and the finite can coexist. What sort of prayers does a human being pray when that human being believes that God itself has ordained such a violent world? For what that person believes is a very good reason. This, my dearest friends, is a truly dangerous paradigm if you ever hope to restore that which is infinite goodness and love in this world of yours and in your universe. Do not underestimate the absolute power of prayer to produce a result. All of the infinite hears a prayer that emerges from a sincere heart. The problem is adequately responding to that prayer arises from the erroneous assumptions from which that prayer might emerge. Currently, the most prevalent of these assumptions is founded in the false belief that God/love begets pain and suffering. and for a presupposed good reason. When this is the unconscious premise of your prayer, you will find yourself wholly limited in what it is that you can actually pray for. You will find yourself praying for relief from one specific circumstance. That may be yours alone. Or you might even enlarge the scale of your request to include help for a certain group of people who are suffering from a natural disaster. These are noble prayers, to be sure, and I certainly do not advocate stopping such beautiful inquiries of love. But your world and your situation here requires something much, much larger in terms of a response. Yet the response can only equal the magnitude of the prayer. And if the prayer is limited by a belief that God wants all of this suffering, then you find yourself in the role of a beggar rather than one who indeed sits on the right hand of God, because in truth, you are a manifestation of the finite yourself. The purpose of this discourse is to provide you with a choice. And the choice may not be an easy one, although it is indeed the most desirable. One choice that you have is the one that you have already made, and that is the choice to believe that somehow all of this pain can be justified and explained away. Therefore, your task is to either learn to live with it or somehow better yourself because of it. The problem with this choice is that the events in your world are in the process of overtaking this form of rationale in such a way as to eclipse your ability to believe in this for very much longer. And thus I, Archangel Michael, have come to offer you another option. Whether or not you choose this option is entirely your prerogative. You will be equally loved by that which is divine, no matter what you choose to do. So what is this choice, you might ask? The choice is simple. It starts with acknowledging what you know to be true in your heart. What your heart tells you unequivocally so about the truth about life in this universe. That there should be no such thing as pain. That there should be no such thing as death. That there should exist only joy, creativity, love, and happiness. That there should be no such concept as health. Because all exists in a state of holy immortal enlightenment, and on it goes. Ask your heart sometime what it really wants to tell you. Remove the censoring device that is only there to protect a false and erroneous belief. The belief that says that you or God or some sort of karmic regulation says that this pain and suffering is really necessary on some kind of spiritual level. The utterly false belief that true life can only be experienced in the finite, and that your immortal self sees this as highly advantageous. Do you know what the meaning of the word finite really is? That which has a beginning shall also have an end. Is that what your heart really wants when it comes to love? Allow me to suggest to you an alternate form of prayer, for prayer is your greatest power. If you are willing to pray in true alignment with what your heart knows to be true, you will find yourself praying an altogether different set of prayers. Because your heart exists in a state of oneness with love and the infinite, you will immediately see that your own personal plight cannot be adequately addressed in a void. You will understand that first and foremost, your prayer must address the world. You will realize that your private form of pain exists in a larger context where pain is possible. Think for a moment of how powerful a prayer would be if it addressed the issue from the pure state of the heart with no compromises and no excuse for why the pain exists. Imagine what it would be like to give yourself permission to pray for the elimination of that which causes the possibility of pain in the first place. Can you allow yourself to experience that level of truth? Some might see this as a matter of good behavior. Can we please have everyone on earth simply behave themselves and not cause any more trouble? How about the notion of world peace? Can we please get rid of all the weapons and stop all the wars? Interesting how that prayer has never really worked out, has it? There may have been a temporary reprieve here and there, but overall war and the development of weapons is more active today than ever before. So when these prayers never really work out after thousands and thousands of years of trying, then the assumption that generally follows is that there is either the fault of the humans or God simply believes, that you deserve all of this suffering. And I think that's very true. I think a lot of people will say things like that or feel things like that. And next comes the guilt. Well, people say, we are clearly miserable failures as a species. Otherwise, all of this praying would have yielded some result. Actually, your prayers have yielded many results, as those who have had them answered can readily attest. It is just that in terms of your main plight as a collective species, those results are far too small. So let us clarify one thing. Nothing in this universe can change your plight unless you specifically ask for it and want it. You must want it with all your heart and soul. But if it does not occur to you to ask for it, there is little or nothing that can be done. As long as you continue to rationalize, excuse, and convince yourself that all of this suffering is God's will, then the best prayer that you can offer will be along the very limited lines of asking for help in coping with your situation. Now let us talk about death. Definitely a taboo subject, right? And why is that? Death, you see, is ultimately a matter of physics. Unfortunately, those particular physics are produced by the existence of the first original lie, the one that says, I am not infinite. Well, in that case, you are finite and therefore something that can't really exist except as a manifestation of that lie. All lies must have a beginning. Their beginning occurs the moment that one decides to eclipse the truth. All truth is infinite. To proclaim that one is not infinite is to generate an entire universe of finite matter, all of which is ultimately an illusion. And what do you think happens in this universe of finite matter? Lots of violence and lots of collision. Everything in that finite world attempts to secure its own survival in a universe where death is always imminent. This happens at a microcosmic level of human existence as well as at a macrocosmic level of solar systems and galaxies. We will not discuss the subject of extraterrestrials, since you clearly have your hands full with your own planet. Indeed, we do. Yet you need not worry about praying for your entire universe. That subject is currently well outside of your range of perception. But why not begin by considering your own planetary plight? That is what your heart knows and what you will clearly see if you allow yourself to do so. Let us now discuss the subject of prayer itself. What is prayer? Prayer is mostly known as an appeal to the infinite by those who find themselves in a finite situation. The core motivator for nearly all prayer is a recognized need for assistance in getting out of any particular situation. In this case, it would exist as a recognition that all is not as it should be in the realm of love. Later in this discourse, we will discuss the way in which the ego can erroneously influence one's desire to pray. But for now, let us concern ourselves only with the matters of the heart. The heart has a simple, one-pointed, and irrevocable direction in terms of its prayer. And that prayer exists as a perpetual desire to return to a state of truth and oneness. It wants only to know its true state of infinite love and to manifest the creation of that love throughout all of reality. Did you know that you are a creator? On Earth, it may seem that you are primarily a survivor. How do you know? Because every day you wake up to the recognition that you are still alive. That is until you don't, which makes life very precious, doesn't it? But isn't there something wrong with a situation that requires death in order to fully appreciate life? I propose this simple truth to you. Why not allow your heart to speak its truth to you in a way that is unadulterated by any acquired beliefs? That truth may seem outlandish to you, maybe even radical, as the heart informs you that all there is love, and that is all you should experience. The heart has a great deal more to say, all of which is positive, loving, and beautiful. There is no suffering in the abode of the heart. The heart will never tell you that life is about overcoming pain and suffering. It will tell you that pain and suffering should not exist. Okay, so that concludes our chapter 11, discussing prayer. I have a feeling that we will be going into this in more depth further on into what Archangel Michael refers to as a discourse, rather than a reading or a lesson, I guess you could say. But this chapter was a bit smaller, but I do feel like it is extremely important to pray if that is something that you hold as important in your life. And why not pray in a way that you know would be more effective, coming from a place that is all love and all infiniteness, rather than coming from a place of fear and that subconscious and conscious idea that we are praying to something that is essentially allowing these things to happen. So I really do understand where we may have very deeply rooted, very deeply hidden fears about something that causes also helping us, I guess you could say, for those that, you know, are along the lines of thinking that God causes things and God is upset with us and God only gives us what we can handle, those sorts of things. So this is something that's definitely, I will think on, and I definitely have some things to reflect back on regarding this information on prayer, and I hope to gain from it, and I hope that you do as well. So once again, thank you so much for joining me. Please like, subscribe, comment. I would really love that. And I really enjoy reading these books to you guys. I think I say that on pretty much every video I make, but it's true. I can help myself, and I can also reach out to others that may be interested in things like this and may resonate with these sorts of subjects. So until next time, when we read chapter 12, and that is titled Adam and Eve. Until next time, stay well, stay in your hearts, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.